What's going on YouTube? Super Jew here. I think it's been like 2 years since I posted a video. I used to post Yu-Gi-Oh content whenever I posted, which is like once every couple months. I'm going to try to get back into posting videos. It's going to be for Magic. If this does not seem interesting to you, that's fine. If you play Magic, hope I'm helpful. What I post will mostly be deck tech, maybe interviews. It's going to be, if it's a deck tech and it's something I'm playing, it's probably going to be a control deck, control brew, something I played, did well with, liked. Today, I played at F&M, top 4 with this deck. It's like, I guess, a bug mill deck. It's incidental mill. You're not playing like shitty cards that are losing you card advantage. You're not trying to, it's not like a burn deck where, you're playing one of those mill spells that mills for 8 and then you just lose a card and then you just run out of gas and lose. So I'll just go through the deck. So I'd say this is your win condition elixir. Sorry if this is backwards, I'm not good with the camera. There's no creatures in the deck, so your game plan, you're trying to go long, recycle your deck. Yeah. One Jace Memory Adept, it's really unnecessary, the deck doesn't need it, but it just helps you finish games quicker. Yeah. And it's the only like Hero's Downfall target, which is kind of relevant. 4 Opportunity. This is your engine. This is kind of like your Rev. I've tried the deck splashing white. It's too much between all the Scry lands and having to pay too much life for your lands to play untapped. It's not worth it. Opportunity does the trick just fine, because by the time you get to the point where you're looping, most of your lands are in play anyway, so you're drawing gas. 4 Psychic Strikes. There's a 4th one in there somewhere. Yeah, 4 strikes. It's your 3 mana counter spell, typical control. Scrying on Dissolve is really good, but with this and the next card I'm going to show you, just incidentally milling your opponent is really good. It just helps you win the game without having to actually play cards that win the game. Typical control. 4 Pilfered Plans. For those of you who don't know, it's black 1 at a blue. Target player mills 2 cards, you draw 2. So it's like your divination that incidentally wins you the game. So if you're playing against like a control matchup and they have 1 Aetherling to win, you can mill their Aetherling or their Elixir. It happens often, it's really good. 4 Downfall, best removal spell in the format. 3 Abrupt Decay, borrowed 1 tonight. Yeah, answers Underworld Connections. The deck, the deck was like originally blue-black, but there's cards that the combination of blue and black just can't answer. You have to splash another color, which is why most decks splash white. This deck is more, just a fun brew, so splashing green. 2 Gaze of Granite, it's your Wrath. Yeah, it's actually pretty nutty. Against like the monster matchups, you can get real value out of it. Against the aggressive decks, you can play it as a 4 mana Wrath. Against like the boss slide decks that have been popping up, or the mono black aggro decks. Then there's like a pile of 1-ofs in the deck. You have like 1 Doomblade, 1 Unravel the Aether, Putrefy, Bile-Blight, an Ultimate Price, a Devour Flesh, and a Far and Away. This removal suite could be wrong. I don't know. It's just the format's so diverse, where I know you definitely want the Hero's Downfalls and the Abrupt Decays, and then from there, each deck has its own merit. So you don't want to overcommit, 4 Devour Fleshes and then playing as Mono Green Devotion or something. So you want to have at least a chance in each matchup. And then post board, there's a lot of singletons that kind of make the numbers smoother per matchup. And then there's 1 Essence Scatter in the main, 1 Negate, 1 Syncopate. Deck has a lot of Scry lands, so I don't like as many Syncopates. Usually people play 2. I'm not a huge fan of the card. I'd rather have the hard counter, especially in a format like this where so many Planeswalkers are being played. Underworld Connection, just having the negate on 2 is kind of why you have the Syncopate. And then the last non-land card is a Crypt Incursion. Without Rev, you don't have a huge way to gain life. Main deck, there's just Elixir and Crypt Incursion. But the card surprisingly is awesome. It's nice to just have 1, especially with Elixir, you can recycle it. The card will usually gain you 21 plus life, 7 creatures. It's not that hard when you're incidentally milling them for 2 with each of your divination effects and your counterspell effects. And then you have just a ton of removal. So, against basically every matchup but control, but even if you're playing, it's good, but even if you're playing control and they have Aetherling in play, you just, cast it and race an Aetherling, milling them. So onto the lands. 3 islands. 5 swamps. There's the 5th one right here. Usually in a control deck you play more blue sources than your other sources, but this deck, your only blue spells that cast double blue are Opportunity and Jace. And then post board, if you get into counter battles and control mirrors, you want to have more blue sources, but by that point in the game it shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, when you have cards like Gaze of Granite, Hero's Downfall, Bile Blight, Removal Souls post board, you want to make sure you have your double black. You don't want it to be a problem. So yeah, 2 Overgrown Tombs, bar those also. 2 Breeding Pools, 4 Water Graves. For the Shocklands, just like I was saying, you're primarily a blue-black control deck, so you want to have your blue-black lands, and then you don't want too many Shocklands, especially because you're just splashing for the green. And you really, between Abrupt Decay, Unravel the Aether, and Gaze, you have 6 green cards, so getting 1 green source hasn't been a problem, especially when you have 10 Scrylands. So on the Scrylands, 3 Malady, 3 Mystery, and 4 Deceit. The mana base is pretty good, I'd say. I haven't had really too many problems, especially with the Scrylands. Playing your lands in order is important. You want to make sure you usually have because sometimes you have more basics in your hand. So you always want to have double black on 3. It's actually really good because you cannot represent double blue on 3. And your opponent might be like, oh, well, he doesn't have a dissolve, he has no counter, and they'll play right into your Psychic Strike. So that's something to look out for. And then I'll go to the sideboard. The sideboard is really random. It's more or less just one-ofs that just kind of pad your numbers post-board. You kind of slide out a one-of that's not good, and then bring in a second of a card that is good in the matchup. So it might not be the right mindset, but it's what I'm going for. 1 Dispel. It's good against burn, control matchups, sometimes bringing against mono blue. There's 2 Gainsays, the second one's somewhere in here. Here it is, just good for the mono blue matchup and control matchups. 1 Freaka's Cure. It's the aggro matchups, like burn and just the boss slide decks are kind of tough matchups. So I wanted removal that's good against creatures, but I didn't want too much because they're not too heavy in the format. Second Unravel, it's good against black, it's good against blue. The Constellation decks. Second Negate for control, monsters, sometimes mono blue. Like if they're going on the all-in Jace plan, then you want to have the cheap counters. Golgari Charm, it's good against creature decks, it's good against Constellation, mono black, mono blue, all the same decks. 2 Notion Thief is really just for the Rev control decks. They usually don't have any instant speed way to deal with it, except for countering. So when they go for an end of turn Rev, you can get into a counter battle, resolve Notion Thief. Them gaining life doesn't matter, you can't really deal that much damage. Drown in Sorrow, it's good against creature decks, mono blue, bunch of stuff. Second Devour Flesh, second Doomblade, second Ultimate Price. Like I said, these cards all have their merits in different matchups. So you can just trim and add as you please. 1 Dark Betrayal, it's good against mono black aggro. Then the 15th card, sorry, that's my parrot if you heard that. The 15th card is something I put in the last minute. It was actually really good. Bow of Nylea. Against mono blue, you can destroy their flyers. Sorry. You can destroy their flyers by dealing 2. Gaining 3 against red decks. Really, just any deck in general isn't even bad. The big thing, though, is the ability to shuffle 4 cards into your graveyard. Sometimes you get to a point in the game where you don't have an elixir, or you have an elixir but you don't want to put your whole graveyard back, so you can just put back the cards that you really want at the moment. If you're playing against a black deck and they Thoughtseize your elixir, or if you play poorly against a blue-white deck and they're able to counter your elixir or something, just any of those, corner cases. The bow's good. It just works, like I was saying, as a corner case scenario card, but it has its merits in a lot of matchups. And usually, with this deck, you have enough dead cards, usually against other control decks, where you can afford to bring in the bow. So yeah, that's the deck. I think it's a pretty sweet option for standard. I think you have a good control matchup. I feel pretty good against any devotion deck. control decks. Monsters is alright, as long as you don't fall behind. The only thing I'm worried about is, sorry, the bird, but really aggressive decks are really the deck's only problems. Pre-board, if your metagame is really heavy, you know, you can add more Drown in Sorrow type effects, Golgari Charms, Freakish Cures to hedge the matchup, but I am trying not to worry about it. I don't think you should either. If you like this content I'm providing, like the video, subscribe, leave comments, and maybe I'll start producing more content regularly. Have a good one, have fun at your pre-releases, and I'll see you later.